Hello everyone, my name is Wilson. I am from Informatica Global Customer Support. In the support videos, we will look at few informations about log registration. The agenda of this support video is we can look at what is log registration in Informatica, how to disable the log registration, and what is the impact if log registration is disabled. To begin with, let's see what log registration is. We can consider an example where you try fetching your workflow or session logs from your workflow monitor. You might have run multiple times the same session, so it would have each and every run would have its own run ID and it would have created its own session logs. When you try to fetch session log or workflow log for those runs from monitor, it fetches the exact right session log and workflow log. How this is happening? What is responsible for this? So the integration service which creates the workflow log, it registers the location of the log with its run ID, folder name, workflow name to the domain. So the domain parses this information in one of its domain tables. Similarly, the session or the which is run by the web engine, the DTM, it creates the session logs for each and every session run, and also it registers its location with the run ID, folder details, etc. to the domain. So the domain parses this information into the domain tables, and whenever the clients like workflow monitor or your InfraCMD request for the logs, given a workflow ID or the run context, which is nothing but your folder name, folder ID, workflow ID, and the session ID, and the run instance name and the run ID for that particular run of the session or workflow, the domain gets the workflow log or session log and sends back to the client. Let's take a look into the table where this info is persisted. This information is persisted into one of the domain tables. The table name is ISP run log. This table holds the information on where the log files are present for each and every workflow run and also the sessions. So this table has multiple columns. From the naming itself, you can clearly see it it has the absolute file name. So this column provides the information on where the workflow log session log is stored in the and what is the name of the file too. It has integration service name, repository domain, repository name, run context, which is a combination of your folder ID, workflow ID, and session ID. Run ID, so every run of a session and workflow has a new run ID. Entry time, whenever this workflow is run, it stores that information here. Folder name, workflow name, session path is nothing but the session name itself. OS user, which is needed if you are running a OS profile workflow in order to fetch the session logs created by that session, you need to impersonate as the OS profile user. So this information is also persisted. And the last is run instance name, which is nothing but for concurrent workflow runs with different run instances, you would need the run instance name. So all these informations, whenever the integration service starts a workflow, it passes this information to the domain and the domain persists that info here. Similarly, the session, whenever it starts, it passes the information regarding the session log directory, session details to the domain, and the domain stores this information to the ISP tables. So now let's see how to disable the log registration. In cases where you are not using your workflow monitor or InfraCMD to fetch the session logs or workflow log, you're ready to go and look at the uh, directories and fetch the logs from there, you can disable the log registration process. So in order to disable the log registration, you need to set a custom property at the integration service level and the custom property is called as use log service. Once you set this custom property to no and recycle your integration service, the integration service and the sessions or the DTM would skip the log registration process. They will not inform the domain on where these logs are getting created, and thus it skips the process. So there is a you're reducing the overhead on the domain but not passing on this information. What is the impact if log registration is disabled? Once you disable the log registration, as you all know by now, the location details like where these logs are stored for a given run context or given workflow or session, it doesn't register these details to the domain. As a result, when you try to fetch the logs from your workflow monitor, there won't be any information available for that given run instance or uh, for the run ID. So this will fail the fetch log operation from your workflow monitor. Similarly, this would be the same case if you use InfraCMD get logs, get session logs, or get workflow logs. So you need to choose when to use log registration and when to disable them. That's it for today. We value your feedback. Please feel free to write back to us at supportvideos@informatica.com, and also you can tweet to us at twitter.com/infasupport. Thank you everyone.